Good morning, everybody. We are live, and I am so thrilled. And just let me be my own producer for a second. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are joining us on the West Coast, it is an early morning, but it is a beautiful morning. And if you're joining us from the East Coast, you're already into your day. So this will be a little pick me up for the morning. My guest today is Brendan Houdek, and we've spoken to Brendan before on this show. It has been fabulous. He's a wealth of knowledge. He also does impersonations and speech coaching and presenting coaching and public speaking coaching. He does it all, and he's just brilliant. So uh, I'm going to read you a bit about Brendan on his official bio, and then we'll bring him in. And if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. But I do understand it's quite early if you're over and where I am. So if you just want to sit back, chill with a cup of coffee or tea and listen, that is cool, because you're going to have something brilliant to take away from the end of this discussion. So Brendan Houdek is an executive speech coach, a NYS licensed and ASHA certified speech language pathologist. Brendan's coaching combines an intricate knowledge of anatomy and physiology with a background in philosophy. He is passionate about teaching effective business communication, executive presence, and vocal production, equipping clients with control and flexibility to present themselves professionally and authentically. His training covers not only the technical aspects of speech production, but also presentational performance and perspective work. Come on in, Brendan. We're doing this.
Hello, Jill. Hello, podcast.
Hello. And what are you up to this morning? You probably had your coffee already. It's what, 10 o'clock-ish?
It is 10 a.m. here on the East Coast, about 73 degrees. We're getting into that summer season. Yeah, just a nice, relaxing morning. No better way to start than spending some time with you all.
Oh, you're so sweet. I feel the same way. I did not even care when the alarm went off this morning at 6 a.m. I was like, yes, queen, let's go.
You're looking forward to this. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the podcast today. Our last talk was so much fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun. If you haven't watched part one, if I haven't yet, it's in the show notes. Watch part one because you're going to get the basis for part two, right?
Yes.
We had such a fabulous little mini chat before we started. And of course, I have a list of questions for you, but you hit me with the truth bomb that was like, we are going there first. So today's episode is all about public speaking, presenting, all that kind of good stuff. And you said to me, all speaking is public speaking. Brendan, I'm giving you the floor. You're going to unpack this for us.
Yes. Before I do, for everyone listening, that's how it works with myself and Jill. 5 seconds in, the truth bomb hits. 5 seconds in, we're already into the deep stuff. Yeah, we were talking a little bit about how last time we focused a lot on the sound of the voice, the speaking voice, vocal health concerns, voice impressions, all of that. And we said, let's talk a little bit more about the other side of what I do, the presenting work, the public speaking work. And we started to talk about the distinctions of, public speaking proper, you're in front of the crowd, so to speak, you're at the podium doing your speaking in front of 300 people. And that's how most people think of, quote, public speaking. But as I said to you, I think that all speaking is public speaking, as long as you're not talking to yourself. If you're talking to one or more human beings, you're doing public speaking, you're speaking in public.
Excellent.
And not to be trivial, just to play with the words there, it really is what we do is we train individuals to feel comfortable to speak how they want, when they want, in any circumstance. If I ask most people, hey, can you speak how you want, when you want, in any circumstance? Most people say, no, I have a hard time with the big crowds. I have a hard time with the one-on-ones. I have a hard time when it's people I do know, when it's people I don't know. Everyone seems to have different preferences. And so we see that there is a need to get comfortable in all these various circumstances.
And also a nugget people may not have taken with them into the presenting mode is that voice work applies. Can you talk about that? All the voice work we talked about in part one, actually, I mean, we are using our voice in public speaking, so logically that makes sense, but it's maybe more connected than we might think.
Yep, I could talk about that for
6 episodes.
Yeah, easily. I'll give you the basics here.
Thank you.
The way that we speak. I think that most people, when they think about public speaking, they recognize the way we speak can affect how we're perceived. And I really do believe that's what most people are focused on. I'm going to public speaking classes because I want to present better, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
vocal work because I want to sound better. And it's oftentimes for the listener. And that's true, part of it for sure. But I think the part that's missed is the way you speak, whether it be the sound and quality of your voice, whether it be the words you're using, actually affects how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
also affects how you think. The very way that you're talking has this loop effect, a chicken and the egg effect,
Love
where it
that.
goes back onto the way you feel, onto the way you're able to think in the moment. And so it's not just, hey, make your voice sound this way so it sounds pleasing to others. It's really, that's a piece of it if you are concerned about that. But in addition, it affects your internal heart rate. It affects how you can think in the moment, how you feel about the moment, and your self-perception in the
Mm-hmm.
moment. So I think they're very intimately related.
Mm-hmm. I was going to wait to go into nerves, but I feel like that's a little segue here already because you just brilliantly outlined the chicken and the egg loop. So when we have these nerves, what is what is happening first of like what is happening to us with these nerves, because a lot of people have a lot of guilt and shame around nerves. What is nerves? And two, how can we use them to our advantage or work with them instead of against them? What
Yes.
would you say to that? That's a big one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have something as a human being called a nervous system.
Yes,
And your
sir.
nervous system essentially has these two halves to it. There's
Mhm.
the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The
Mhm.
sympathetic side is the exciter side. It gets you excited or anxious or scared or nervous or even ecstatic and happy. It's that side of you. Then you have the parasympathetic side. This is the relaxer function. This is the one that makes you feel calm,
I like that one.
relaxed, even oftentimes focused. You can do it in this mode.
Mhm.
And there's this, again, chicken or the egg relationship between what your nervous system is doing and the actions that you're doing. So, for example, what are some things that a person does, both speaking wise and physically, when they're nervous? What are some examples that come to mind for you?
Oh, I would say, like, freeze mode where you can't think,
Right? Can't
sweating, shaking,
sweating,
right? Just, like,
and
panic, maybe passing out.
passing
Depends
out.
how bad it is.
That's right. And
Yes.
then speech wise, they might talk really
Mm.
fast,
Exactly.
maybe really
Exactly.
frenetic body movements. So
Yeah.
there are these associated phenomena and actions with
Mhm.
that nervous system getting excited, with that sympathetic nervous system firing. But what's
Mhm.
interesting is you get nervous, you talk fast.
Yeah.
But if you talk fast, you get nervous. If right now I said, hey, Jill, can you tell me all about the Voxsana podcast as fast as you possibly can?
Oh
You
my
would
gosh.
feel your heart rate go up and you'd
Already
go
I'm like, "Oh,
blank.
what? Are we
Yeah,
doing this?"
that's right. And your mind would go blank. There's this moment where you go,
Yep.
so the Voxsana podcast is, and you can't think
Duh.
about anything.
Yeah. Mhm,
And so
mhm,
again, there's this two-way street, this chicken or the egg relationship. And what
mhm,
happens when we're nervous is it's actually a really good thing. Your body is saying there's some kind of danger.
mm,
It's not a normal thing for one person to be standing one direction and
mhm.
300 people to be looking at them. And so your brain goes, I'm facing the wrong direction. Something is wrong here. And it's
Oh.
registering it as a fight or flight moment.
Of course. Mhm,
What happens when you see a wild animal and you're afraid of it? Your brain goes into fight or flight mode. And when that happens,
mhm,
you don't feel good and you
mhm,
can't think well, other than
mhm.
don't die. That's all you can
Right.
think at that moment. If again, we're talking about business
Aw.
communication, you can't go, what was our revenue in Q3 of 2021? You can't do that
No,
the
no.
moment when that sympathetic nervous system is firing. But
Mhm,
again, the chicken or the egg relationship, you feel that fight or flight response, so you talk fast. But
mhm.
as you talk fast, you're rewarding
Ooh, that's
nervous system
good.
firing. And so the strange answer here is control your actions, speak
Uh-huh.
with intentionality as opposed to that knee jerk response,
Uh-huh.
And your nervous system will start to go, oh, whenever Jill speaks slowly, we are calm. So Jill speaking slowly, maybe I'm actually calm. And it has
What?
this psychological
Wild.
effect. And
Uh-huh.
by the way, one of the most fun things to do when I'm doing these big group workshops is
Yeah.
to show how you can take your Apple Watch, not sponsored, you can take your
Nice.
Apple Watch and look at your heart rate when you do this. And when you do certain speech actions or you use your voice in a certain way, you see that heart rate go up. And when you find yourself speaking slower, having more breaths in between sentences,
Wow.
speaking with greater intentionality, you start to feel those nerves drop.
That's wild. That's wild.
Pretty cool.
I've never heard this before. We always get the information like breathe. And sometimes you're just like, seriously?
Yes.
I can't even function right now. You want me to sit and breathe for a second?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's helpful. We need to breathe, but sometimes we need a little something before that. And so this is that little something that's like, slow down and then get
Yeah.
a breath.
Well, if I could add to that,
Yeah.
so many things.
I love
First,
this. Keep going.
first, that's why both one-on-one training and group training of any kind is
Mhm.
important, because it's a little bit like saying, hey, you want to perform on stage, you want to play piano on stage, just go to Madison Square Garden and play in front of 30,000 people. Just do it. You can't do that, right? You need to at first practice at home in your room. You need to do your scales. You need to run the songs, etc.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
the same thing is true about speaking. Is it true that breathing will help you in the moment? Yes. But it's also true you need to do some exercises by
Yeah.
yourself,
Yes.
practicing that before you can do it at Madison Square
In
Garden.
real time. Exactly. You're brilliant. I love this. I
So,
love this work.
so the first piece again is there are actions you can do that can change how you feel.
Mhm,
Secondly, you need to practice that. This does take time. It doesn't happen
mhm,
in a day. But
mhm,
the other piece I'd add is right now we're talking about the actions. That's half the battle. The other side of it would be the mindset and the
mm,
perspectives that you're
mhm.
going into a speaking situation with. I think of that because you said, I can't possibly breathe right now. And
Right.
that goes to, yes, the momentary feeling, but it also
Uh-huh.
goes to a greater understanding of
Mhm.
there's no way I could take time in this moment. But the reality is you
Okay.
could. It just
Mhm.
feels like you can. So
Feels
part
like
of
you
this is
can.
also weighing our psychology and saying, what is the actual truth of the situation as
True.
opposed to what my nervous system is telling me is true.
Oh, mindset is huge in this work, right? I mean, I could just open that and you could probably talk for 6 hours again about mindset in this work. But if you had to leave us with a couple tips on mindset and voice and presenting and public speaking or just everyday conversations, what
Mhm.
might those mindset shifts be for voice work?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm balancing the Brendan can talk for 6 hours about anything with, can I say it in one word? I can say it in one word.
Okay.
Decatastrophizing.
Ooh, nice. Nice word.
Period.
Woo!
I'm
It's a
gonna
big
go.
one.
I'll let you sit with that for the
It's
next one.
early. It's
Yeah.
early and you did it. Bravo.
Decatastrophizing. And
Yeah.
now I'll unpack that and talk about it for 6 hours.
Mm. Mhm.
Decatastrophizing, when our nervous system is firing, which again
Mhm.
is a good thing. If you're in a fight or flight situation, you want that to fire.
Mhm.
The problem is it's misfiring. It's
Mhm.
misfiring. Quick little tangential story for a second.
Yep.
A few years ago, I was living somewhere that had a smoke detector, and
Mm.
this smoke detector was super sensitive. So the first time I was there, I was making food, a little bit of steam went off, and the smoke detector went off. What did I do? I freaked out. Is there a fire? Do I need to call 911? That was the experience. Then I realized, no, no fire. Okay, I reset it. The
Mhm.
next time I was cooking some food, it happened again, and I got scared again. But
Mhm.
then, after being there for about 4 years, I just learned this thing is so sensitive. It went off one time, some steam from my shower leaked out the door and set this thing off. So it
You're
was so
kidding.
sensitive, right?
I
Now,
mean, that's good.
right?
That's great.
Are smoke detectors a good thing? Of course. They
Yes.
tell us when there's fire. But
Yeah.
sometimes that smoke detector can be overactive. And the same thing is true
Mhm.
of our nervous systems. And so if we
Mhm.
respond to every heart flutter as I need to call 911 in the fire department,
Mhm.
we just can't live like that. I would not have been able to ever cook food in my house if that was going to be my response to it. And
Mhm.
so what we need to do is decatastrophize, zoom out and say, what's the objective truth about this situation? What's the
Mhm.
worst case scenario? What are the actual stakes? Who really cares what's going on right now?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying there aren't high stakes situations, but I'm saying most of the time, and even in those high stakes situations, it's probably not as high stakes as you think it is.
Yes. Yes.
Most likely, no matter what happens, your family will still love you. You'll probably still have your job, right? Whenever I ask, what's the
Yeah.
worst case scenario about
Yeah.
this presentation you have coming up? It's like, I might freeze.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
again, I'm not minimizing that. It's an
Mhm.
important thing. It is a high stakes situation.
Yeah.
Have you frozen before? Yes. Have you lived through it? Yes. Did you get
Right?
fired? No.
No.
And so we can take these moments in addition with all the tools we have, with the actions we're going to do to help
Mhm.
lower that nervous system response. We can
Mhm.
then decatastrophize and say, what is the reality of this situation? And I think if
Mm.
you have those mindsets and those actions working for you, that
Mhm.
heart rate's going to go down. And when that heart rate goes down, you can think better, so you can choose the words you want to say better, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Life is
Mhm.
better when you're
Mhm.
not always in a fight or flight state.
Oh, for sure. So, correct me if I'm oversimplifying, but are we trying to normalize the situation instead of making it special? Is
Hmm.
that it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the most uninspiring thing I'll ever say.
Excellent.
Most of life is just okay. If life is a bell curve, okay, life's a bell curve,
Uh-huh.
have that 68 percentile in the center there towards the
Yeah.
average. Right?
Yeah.
The worst day of your life is one day. It's the worst day of your life. And the best day of your life is one day.
Mhm.
Most moments are, pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
moments are just okay. And that's actually very encouraging to me.
Mhm.
And that's what I
Mhm.
mean by decatastrophizing.
Mhm.
Every public speaking moment you've been scared of, you've been thinking it's going to be the worst day of your life. And
Yes.
definitionally, that can't be true because the worst day of your life is one day of your life.
Right.
Most events that you speak at are right here in that little middle bubble. Maybe they're a little worse than you'd like them to be or a little better than you'd like them to be. That's where most things sit.
Mhm.
And so normalizing is a word for it.
Mhm.
Also, just zooming out and seeing the reality of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, so good, and I I just love you. You make me giggle, and it's so early, and I'm happy, and I haven't even finished my coffee. Not sponsored. Um,
That's not
oh my goodness.
We'd like
So,
to be.
yeah, so here's a word I wanna talk with you about, authenticity. I feel
Mhm.
like this is huge in this line of work. And when I say line of work, I mean, really, it's life because we're talking about speaking in all facets. It's not just the
Yeah.
work presentation you have in 3 months, and that's all you use this for.
Mhm.
You can pretty much use it in your whole life. Talk to me about authenticity and its role in being successful
Yeah.
in this area.
If
And
I had a
successful is
dollar,
relative, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. If I had a dollar for every time a client said to me, Brendan, this is so much more than speaking. This is for life. I'd have as many
Right?
dollars as I've had clients over the years because
Right?
just this is
Yeah.
so intimately and intricately
Mhm.
connected to
Mhm.
who we are as humans. The
Mhm.
voice, the speaking we do, it is who we are. The way we communicate is just at the very least, a huge part of who we are.
Mhm.
And with the authenticity piece, it's interesting because nobody comes to me and says, what I really want to be is inauthentic. I just want to be an
Right.
inauthentic person. Most people want to be authentic, or at the very
Yeah.
least, they'd rather be, is
Yep.
usually the case. But
Mhm.
that gets to a big question of what does it mean
Right.
to be
Mhm.
authentic?
Mhm.
And we can have some distinctions among that. And one of the things I love about the work that I do, as I said earlier, speak how you want, when you want, is what we say. So I'm not going to tell
Mm.
you what authenticity is for you.
Mhm.
But it is at its core a decision we make about how do I want to present to the world and how do I want to feel internally. There's that internal and external piece. But I do think it's a decision that you and you alone get to make. But the tools that we teach help you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
One distinction I'll make, though, is sometimes, and you've probably seen this in the singing world a lot, is that there's a conflation between instinctual habit and authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that?
Big one.
A singer says, but I want to do it without thinking about it, right? That's authentic, that's natural. And again, that is an argument. And if that is what authenticity means to a person, I support that. But I do often like to challenge my clients and say, maybe what you do automatically, knee-jerk, instinctual, is just habit, as opposed to the real you. Or maybe we can even say the aspirational you, the you that you want to be, the you that you want to see when you look in the mirror. For example, I slouch often.
Me too. I'm doing it now.
We all do it, right? So hard when you're at a computer not to just be like,
I want to lean in and see you.
so hard, right? But I think slouching is a good example of what I mean. I slouch. Okay. That's a habit of mine. Is it who I am at my core?
Right.
Do I say I am a slouching person? This is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. And again, truly, if I do want to slouch, go for it. But it's not. It's just a habit I've formed, and I'd like to change that. And so what's authentic? Is it inauthentic to try to just lift yourself up a little bit? I don't see that as inauthentic. I see that actually as more authentic. It's fighting a habit to align more with who I think I am at my core and who I want to be. And so when it comes to speech work and voice work, we might say, or mistake, in my opinion, that what I've always done is my authentic self. And if that's the case, then there's no point in vocal training. There's no point in speech training. Just do what you've always done. But most people come to me saying, there are things I do that I don't want to do, and things I don't do that I'd love to do, which means there's a disconnect between what we do habitually and how we feel we are or who we'd like to be aspirationally. And so my job is to help people figure out how to access that authentic self so they can present themselves in a way that's in line with how they see themselves, in line with how they'd like others to see themselves, and in line with the person they want to become in the future.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Which leads me to my next question. You brought up the word aspiration. That's a big one in this work. People have aspirations that they want to get to, and often they'll show you a video of their favorite speaker or singer.
Yeah.
And how do you coach them towards this aspiration while focusing on authenticity? Because some people bring you videos of things that are completely opposite of what they are because they think that's what they should be doing. And not actually what they want to be doing. So that's a delicate balance. How do you figure out, A, is this a good match? Is this actually what you want? And B, how do we coach you towards that without thinking that you have to be a copycat of that? You can actually bring yourself to the conversation. Yeah.
3 words you said in there: should, are, and want.
You're so good. How did you even catch that? It's too early.
Yes, I know. The coffee has kicked in. Yeah, the should, are, and want.
Yeah.
What should we be doing?
Yeah.
What do we want to be doing? And then you said who they are. All of that has so much nuance behind it. And I do think it's a process. When they have this speaker that they show you a video and they think this is what I should be doing, there is a piece of that is really good data for us, which is there's something they like about this speaker. There's something they like about this speaker. And so then it's the process of saying, hey, you brought up this speaker. What is it you like about them? I'd like to hear it in your words. I don't want to tell you what's, quote, good about that speaker. I want you to tell me what you liked about them. And then we start to see things like, well, I love how they were so confident. I love how they didn't even need to think. They knew their answer. Or the opposite. I loved how thoughtful they were about their answers. I loved how animated they were. I loved how energetic and charismatic they were. I loved how relaxed they were. there's all these different qualities that people pick up. So I do think
Mhm.
we can take something from that. And
Mhm.
then what we do is we say, let's blend that with other aspects, because you don't want to be exactly like that person.
No. We have one of those people. Mhm.
Unless you want to do an impersonation. That's a different thing.
That's fun.
Talked about that in the past. But other than that, there's probably, you like elements of them, but there's
Mhm.
still pieces of yourself. And
Mhm.
the trick here, I think the hardest part about this process is I will teach tools, and every tool, almost every tool, is
Mhm.
going to feel uncomfortable, unnatural when you first learn it,
Mhm.
because it's going against your habit. Again, slouching, this will feel
Feels weird.
unnatural. Feels weird.
Super weird. Yep.
Maybe weird is a better word for it. It
Weird.
just feels weird. So the hardest part of the process is saying, can you trust that weird for
Mhm.
3 to 4 weeks of practicing?
Mhm.
If after true dedicated practice, you still don't like it, we don't use it. But what it does is
Oh.
it gives us the ability to let this get in your body, let it feel second nature, and
Mhm.
then you'll be in a better place to decide, did I not like it just because it was weird and new? Or did
Mhm.
I not like it because that's not the kind of person I want to be?
Mhm.
And really, the first tools that I teach are always ones that are really just about gaining intentionality.
Nice.
As you gain that intentionality, you can choose. I saw a spider yesterday in my home, and I just
Excellent.
knee-jerk went, "Ah!" as I saw that spider.
Yeah.
That's not intentional. That is a knee-jerk. If I could rewind the tape, I'd rather not scream at a itsy-bitsy spider by myself in my house.
Right?
When I'm intentional, I can choose how I want to be. So I just think the knee-jerk, the habitual,
Mhm.
isn't bad. We
Yep.
form habits for reasons,
Mhm.
but it's not necessarily in line with the aspiration, with who we want to be. And so
Got
we
it.
learn how to gain intentionality. And
Mhm.
once we have that intentionality, we can do what we'd like with
Oh, so I'm gonna say so good after every answer, or
it.
love that, or wow. That's what I do. Because every time I have these conversations, it's just more fun each time. So, uh, different situations in public speaking. Are we bringing the same self? Are we bringing the
Oh,
same techniques? Are we bringing the same voice? Are we ever raising our volume for certain situations? Tell me about that, because one of the things that I learned through the TEDx coaching is that we want to bring our conversational self to that.
yes.
And
Yeah.
that really surprised me. I mean, it made sense, but it was like, right, we're not trying to bring any other self, so that's that authenticity part. But I wonder, like, how much of that everyday conversational self? How do you coach people on that?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Love this. This is something I really enjoy talking about, because I just don't think that we are static human beings.
Nice.
Was it Donkey and Shrek who said, "We are onions, we have layers"? I believe it was Donkey and Shrek. The internet can correct me.
It's
The
Shrek.
It's Shrek, right?
We
Yeah.
have those on repeat. Mhm, mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. We are onions,
Boulders have
we have
layers.
layers. Yes. We have layers to us, right? And I think that I'm you are getting Brendan.
Yeah.
Any of my friends who know me, they would say, "Yeah, that's Brendan."
Mhm.
But is there a difference between this conversation versus hanging out by the pool
Exactly.
versus talking to my parents versus, and again, different situations, a
Mhm.
funeral versus a wedding? We're going to talk
Mhm.
differently at
Mhm.
these things because we are not static. You are not
Mhm.
always the same in every situation. But a way to make this a little more mathematical for us, let's take some qualities. Your level of extroversion versus introversion, your
Mhm.
level of altruism, etc. You can take each of these things. Let's just take the extroversion piece.
Mhm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you never talk to a human being ever, and 10 being you must always be the crowd's center of attention every second of the day. That's 1 to 10.
Wow. Mhm.
I think that I like to be a 6, a 7.
Yeah.
That's what I like to
Mhm.
be. But
Mhm.
to go as high. I'm willing to go as high as a 9, meaning you now need to be on stage and perform. It's a one-man show. Can you do it? I'm willing to go there.
Yeah.
and I don't feel like I'm betraying myself. I'm
Oh.
not willing to be 10. I'm not willing to be, you all must stop everything because I'm the most
No.
important. I'm not there. And by the
Me
way, that's
too.
not what extroversion means, but I'm just doing a caricature of it.
Of course, of course, of course.
I don't need to always be talking to 1,000 people and eyes are on me.
Mhm.
But I'm willing to go as low as maybe a 4 or 5. I
Mhm.
don't want to be not recognized in the room. I
Mhm.
like to be known that I was there and people enjoyed my presence. And so that means I have this scale of 4 to 8, 4 to 9.
Mhm.
And for me, that's a range of authenticity.
Ooh,
And I
nice.
feel myself along that range, and I'm
Mhm.
willing to adapt per the situation that I'm in.
Mhm. Mhm.
So again, if it's an event that has nothing to do with me, I am not important at this event at all. I'd like to still shake hands with 1 or 2 people, say nice
Yeah.
to meet you, but I don't need to be in everyone's view. I don't need to be
Mhm.
there. That's the 4 in me. That's the 5 in me.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm willing, if it's Brendan, we really need somebody to talk about speech coaching. Can you get up there on the stage? I'm totally willing to do that too. And
Yeah.
so I think when we think about authenticity, it's this huge amalgam of the situation, the people you're talking to, how you feel that day. All of that is this range, this sliding scale. But I just don't want to go outside of that scale because there is a line at which it no longer feels like me.
Mhm. 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 That's so good. I'm gonna ask a question that I think I know the answer to, and I think we've kinda summed it up. But when people come to you and say, "Hey, Brendan, what makes a great speaker?"
Yeah, I think
What's
you
your
do.
answer?
I think you do know the answer.
Yeah, I do.
A great speaker is a speaker who is speaking in line with their aspirational goals.
Mhm.
If you want to speak the most casual, laid back, and you're doing it, you're a great speaker. If
Mhm.
you want to speak more in a formal setting, you're a great speaker if you're living in line with that. Whatever is in line with speaking how you want, when you want. I will throw a bonus third piece there, though. How you
Mhm.
want, when you want, regardless of the circumstance.
Nice.
A great speaker
Ooh.
can adapt to any circumstance they need to. And when I say
Mhm.
adapt, I'm not saying to become something you don't want to be. I'm saying speaking how you want, when you want, in any circumstance. You can be in the one-on-one, you can
Mhm.
be in the crowd of 30,000, and
Mhm.
you can speak how you want to in that moment. I think that's a great speaker.
Mhm. And there's such freedom in that. I mean, if you just sit in that for a hot second, that's not just in those situations that you feel that free and empowered. That's everywhere in your life. Not
Yeah,
to generalize, not to be
well,
perfectionist, but
because as we
kinda.
said, all speaking is public speaking, and you're speaking
Yeah.
in all these areas of your life. Can you feel comfortable? And so often we're just
Yeah.
preparing for the big speech. We're just preparing for the presentation, but then we're
Yeah.
still feeling uncomfortable in all these other areas of our lives.
Yeah.
I agree. It affects all of life.
Yeah.
And I think too, obviously there's other aspects to speaking because it's not just
Mhm.
about you. It is a two-way street. So I don't want
Mhm.
to minimize the fact of being inspiring, being engaging,
Mhm.
things that
Mhm.
many of us want to do as well. And
Mhm.
so there's the internal, how are you a good speaker? And the external, are you able to inspire and affect positive change in the world?
Yeah, that's a big one. Okay. Tell me about presenting solutions because this is a new to me development from New York speech coaching and vocal coaching. And so tell me how this got formed. And I mean, you all have worked with some huge players. Let me just pull up the list here. What did I see? Disney, Amazon, Google, Forbes. My goodness. Tell me about this.
Yeah. It is Presenting Solutions is a company born out of the need for effective communication in the workplace.
Mhm.
We found that this was a skill that organizations were looking for.
Mhm.
But as you mentioned today, we think about public speaking a little bit differently. And
Mhm.
the ability to not just do great at that one presentation, although that's a huge part of what we do, but to be able to communicate effectively in all circumstances. And so one of the big distinctions with presenting solutions is a lot of the group work that we do because we
Mhm.
want the whole team to have this culture of effective communication.
Mhm.
And I really do believe that it's more than just business for business sake, because businesses, to use the phrase I just used, affect change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we are affecting a business, that goes out and has this rippling effect of both effective communication in the world, but also positive outcomes for the world. So
So
if we're
cool.
helping a biotech company who's developing these new medicines to literally save lives,
Right.
they need to be able to communicate that effectively. And so I do get a lot of joy out of seeing that transformation across
Mm-hmm.
the organization. And as I mentioned, the group work's a huge piece of this. So we do a lot of these team workshops where we train everyone in a group setting, which is a really great way to get these ideas out there in one sitting as opposed to working everyone one-on-one. So you get shared philosophy, these shared concepts.
Smart. Mm-hmm.
Two, it's such a fun experience. I don't want to be somewhere for 6 hours if I'm not having a blast. And so I have a blast at these, and it's a great team building experience. But then, of course, you walk away with these foundational concepts that start to spread throughout the team. And then the team becomes their own little speech coaches with each other.
Don't you love that part?
It's so great. It's so great. One of my favorite things is when I see people for a second time and they say, "So Brendan, we were having a practice session yesterday," and that phrase is just so exciting to me that teams will form these practice groups and they're doing my silly exercises in these practice groups. And I say silly because they're fun, but these exercises that change that level of comfort, that level of intentionality, and the ability to speak how you want, when you want. So the group work is so much fun. It also gives you something that one-to-one coaching can't, which is other eyes looking at you as opposed to just my pair of eyes. It gives you that crowd experience. And so there's a combination of speaking in front of the crowd exercises. And of course, we do little breakouts as well, where it is one-on-one. So you really get that blend of all this work. And that's something that Presenting Solutions in particular specializes in. And then after those initial workshops, we do more training of the team in small groups. So instead of the big workshop, smaller groups, as well as the one-on-ones, because the one-on-ones are a great opportunity to be able to express things you might not be willing to share in front of the group, and also just to get more individualized feedback. Through that combination of one-to-one small group and the bigger workshops, it creates this culture of communication change that we're looking for.
I love that they're practicing on their own. And so you did your job well, Brendan. Nice work. It's so good. Okay, so the next place I wanted to go was a lot of times sales is top of mind with some of these group works. And how would I say this? Sales can sometimes have an interesting rep. A lot of words that maybe aren't pleasant for some. How do you go about coaching sales in this way? Or do you must, I would imagine, if they're public speaking and they belong to a company. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Very common for us. Of course, there's going to be specific concerns depending on the company and the industry, and that's something that when we get into the more granular small groups and one-on-one sessions, we can deal with those particular instances that might just be we are an X company and we deal with Y. That can be a particular thing. That requires some nuance. But generally speaking, one of the biggest components of sales is that you're actually forming an authentic human relationship with the person that you're communicating with on the other end. Everything we just said about that authenticity and being able to speak how you want, when you want is huge in this. And so I find that, of course, knowing your stuff, of course, having that control over your nervous system so that you're able to say the things you want to and not say the things you don't want to. But most importantly, forming that human connection. If you've made them laugh, you've gained a friend. So being able to infuse humor in there is a huge piece of the sales. So I think most people are saying, I need to know my stuff and my products. Of course you do. That is a huge piece of it. And I'm not belittling that at all. But if you only know your products and we don't have the ability to communicate that clearly in a structured way, in a way that's easy to understand, distill that information down, plus forming that authentic relationship, using the humor, learning about the person, building that rapport, checking in on them afterwards, right? That relationship combined with the knowledge base is how we affect sales. I'll also say a third piece is showing an openness to answer their questions, answer their objections, welcome their objections
Mhm,
is a huge
mhm,
piece of this too. And one
mhm.
thing that I think can be misleading about this is that might sound like, oh, is all of this communication, Brendan, manipulative? Is it trying just to speak in a way to get people to buy your product? And
That's
I
a
think
word I've heard.
the
Mhm,
exact opposite, again, because that authenticity piece we're talking
mhm,
about.
mhm,
Instead, it's welcoming the questions and the objections, because if it's not a good fit, then it's not a good fit. We're not trying to
mhm,
force a sale on somebody,
mhm,
not a good fit. And so you're able to welcome those questions and welcome those objections because you just want to form the genuine relationship and only land that sale if it's appropriate to do so.
mhm, mhm. Nice work because, yeah, manipulative is a word that I hear a lot, or sleazy, or I don't wanna have to be that, so I'm gonna stay away from sales, and then when we unpack that, we're like, "That's not what sales is actually." So, isn't
Yeah.
that interesting? You might actually like sales now.
I had somebody
Yeah.
come to my home a month or two ago with solar panels in mind. They wanted to sell me some solar panels. They came
Mhm.
in, we crunched all the numbers, and they said, Brendan, we've never seen anybody use less power in our entire time doing this. I just turn off all my lights often. I turn everything off. I'm out a lot because I work in the city but live on Long Island. And so they said, you basically have negative power being used in your home. And they said, it would be unfair for us to sell you this. You really don't need this. It would cost you more to have to get these panels than it would be to just do what you're doing. The whole point of solar panels is to save you money over time. And
Yeah.
they said, it's really not a good investment for you. And I really appreciated that. I
What a great.
appreciated the honesty of
Yes,
that. And the fun fact about that is I would recommend that company.
of
I would
course.
recommend that company to anybody because of the genuine connection I
Mhm.
formed with the person. They were very funny. We had a great rapport. We talked for an hour about how solar works.
Yes, you did.
And again, the story of my life, right? Talking for too long. But
Love it.
also that fact that they weren't trying to force a sale on me. They
Yeah.
welcomed the objections, they welcomed the questions. And I said, so the panels are going to cost this much money, and I won't make that back if I keep this same level of energy. I'm not going to make that back for how many years? And they were like, yeah, like 30 years. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's an exaggeration,
Oh,
but it was something that was
yeah.
totally not worth it.
Yeah,
I
of
might
course.
be in this home then. And so I appreciated that. And I think that's a big part of sales. If you
Mhm.
can walk in to that sale with a foundational sense of self-assurance, which is to say, I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to
Big one.
land the sale. I just need to form the genuine connection. And if the sale is good, I believe in my product and I
Mhm.
will sell my product to them. And I can do that in a way that feels authentic. Nobody wants to feel like they're selling a product that they don't believe.
No.
And so
No.
the ability to say, I believe in my product and I'm going to sell it in an authentic way to this person. And I'm going to gain a friend along the way.
That is and really truly that's how we are in life, yes?
Yeah.
You just go about and maybe you'll gain some friends, but you're just gonna be yourself and yay,
I
without
think that happened.
Pollyanna.
I think that happened here. I think
Yeah,
that, not trying to say, look how great a friend I am to you, Jill, but I think that
but you are.
you liked the last podcast enough and
Yes.
formed a connection to
Yeah.
say, let's do this again.
Mhm.
I do think people minimize the connection piece because it kind of sounds a little idealistic. Okay, Brendan, very nice. Form a connection. I'm telling you, it's everything. Make them laugh, and you are much more likely to land that sale.
Uh-huh. It's huge. You remember how people make you feel,
That's
not
right.
necessarily what they say. That's the big fancy quote, and I can't remember who said it, but
Yep,
that's the one.
it's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes cliches and adages are true.
Of course, yeah, there's an element of truth to them, that's why they exist. So, video versus in person, that's where I wanna go next. Do you bring anything different? Is it harder to emote through the screens? I imagine an in-person gives you a slight advantage if at all, but I'm curious to hear what you think.
One of the things I found most interesting in the post, are we in a post-COVID age? I don't know. But
I
in this,
hope so,
ever
good.
since that advent of the everyone's doing virtual, I found it very interesting. I thought it was going to be everybody felt the same about it, meaning everyone was going to say, I love video or I love in person and I hate the other. And I was surprised to see 50% of people say, I hate virtual communication. It's the worst. I just want to be in person. And the other 50% going, listen, I'm not happy the pandemic happened, but I'm so happy that we're doing virtual communication because it's so much more comfortable for me. I don't have to leave my house. I've seen these two different sides. And that's where the whole how you want, when you want comes into play. Which one is harder for you? And let's work on that. There are distinctions, but I've been very surprised by which ones people like. And that goes for all speaking. I thought it was going to be everybody gets nervous speaking in front of crowds and nobody gets nervous one-on-one. Nope. There's both. Some people say, I love crowds because I don't know any of them and I don't care. But when I'm talking to my best friend, that's when I get really self-conscious. So everyone's different with it. The first piece is not everyone feels the same. The second piece is, are there differences in the way I coach it? For sure. When we're talking about video, we have to care about how you're positioned on the screen.
Oh, I know, not like this, not like what I'm doing.
But that goes back to formal versus casual and authentic. There's that whole piece there. And I think you can be formal and authentic at the same time, but there's that balance there. And on one side, you go, who cares? And it's true. I know you, you know me, your podcast listeners know you. Who cares? On the other side, you go, but it also can affect how I feel in the moment and the way I'm able to think in the moment and all that. So there's a balance here. And there's really no right or wrong. But I think we should be open to exploring the other sides. So I'll teach that how there is a difference between the way you can communicate in a video context versus how you do in person. So the eye contact is one piece of it. The setup is another piece of it. Sometimes there's a lag virtually. There's a component to deal with. There's also, though, those foundational fundamentals we were talking about at the top of the hour here. The way you speak affects how you feel. And one thing I don't see people recognizing often is your lower body, which you don't see on the screen. Clients will say to me, well, I don't need to worry about if I'm fidgeting with my feet because the person can't see it. And it's true, they can't see it. Sometimes you might notice the rest of their body moving with it, but usually you can't see it. That's true. But your brain knows you're doing it. And if the actions you do affect how you feel, as we said earlier, you speak that, your heart goes up. Well, if your leg is doing that, your brain knows you're doing that, and your Apple Watch not sponsored, your heart rate will go up in the process. There's that relationship, that two-way street. So that's something I often have to tell people about. What's going on with the legs? So these are all slight distinctions, but they're related to that same core energy that's going on. Then when you're in person, we have to talk about in what way? Are you at a round table? Are you on the stage? Are you just across a desk with someone? And the way you use your body in those contexts is important too. I do want to say one quick caveat. There are individuals who are neuroatypical and movement is a different thing. It's a part of the way they interact with daily things. So I do want to be sensitive to that. But for the majority of individuals, that frenetic body language can affect how you feel. And whether it's virtual or in person, we have to contend with that body language piece.
What about pajama pants on the bottom? Do we feel a little bit like, oh, I should have dressed up today? Or is it dependent on the person?
Yes.
I have pants on, by the way. I have regular pants on today.
It is a very funny thing. I often do virtual workshops as well as the in-person workshops. And there's one exercise I do where I stand up and we focus on, can you relax the body while you're speaking while standing? And I often say, I will do this exercise today because you never know who's wearing pants, because that didn't happen where it said, so-and-so, can you do the exercise today? No, I cannot. And you went, oh, understood. No pants today. So that's a factor. And I would say that is a personal choice. That is personal choice.
You do you. Yep.
If you want
Okay.
to wear pants, that's your choice. If you want to dress up with your choice as well. But it is interesting that many people do say, I do feel, Brendan, when I get dressed up like I'm going to work, I do feel more in the work zone, which
That's
I
true.
think just goes back to the actions you do affect how you feel. When you
Mm.
do that, you do feel like you're going to work, but maybe you don't want to feel like you're going to work. Maybe you
Mm.
are particularly stressed out about that and you want to feel more like you're sitting on your couch. Well, then maybe you should wear pajama pants. So I do
Right.
think there's that balance and you get to make that choice. Just
Mhm.
know that if you're wearing pajama pants, there's the chance your camera might zoom out randomly. There's that issue. There's always the
Amazing.
do be aware of that.
Or you
I
haven't signed off properly and you get up and walk away.
goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That's
Yeah.
a tip for everyone virtually.
Yeah.
Take a good 3 minutes after you sign off to make sure you're truly signed off. Definitely. That was probably the most fun about the quarantine period
Mhm.
was all of the videos of things going wrong with people's virtual setups and who's not wearing pants and who couldn't get the cat filter off of there.
Oh, that was a good one. Or the
That was,
dad with the kids that ran into the room and he's on a very official, like, news report.
yeah, it's so great. Yes. I think the cat one was my
Oh,
favorite. It was a cat filter
yes.
and he couldn't change it. And he went, well, I think we'll just leave this on. And so a cat is talking for the entire meeting. Yeah, I do miss those days. I
Oh,
do
I
miss
love that. Mhm. Let's use in some humor, though. That's one of our tips, isn't it? Oh, I gotta
use
get some
I
composure. I
guess,
forgot about
I
that.
think if you can summarize everything I said, Jill, it is
Mhm.
put on a cat filter. I think that does everything I said today.
I wish I knew how to do it now. I would do it. Oh, man. Oh, so good. I'm gonna throw you a curveball,
Please.
maybe, but is there I want so badly to cover the conversation and hit all the points that we need to hit today, and I'm wondering, is there somewhere I haven't gone yet that you're just like, "Could we please just address this?" I would just feel so excited and happy.
Mm.
Curveball.
Like every answer, there's 1,000 things that we could
Mhm.
talk about today.
Mhm, mhm.
I do think the way that all of these pieces connect is important to me. And it's really easy to find yourself saying, I'm a singer,
Mhm.
so I don't care about business. Or to say, I'm a CEO of a financial firm. I don't need to care about pitch variation. This is a
Right.
very siloed way of
Yeah,
thinking. That's
yeah.
understandable why we think that way. I don't paint. It's easy
Mhm.
for me to go, why would I need to take a painting class? But there are things that we can learn from all of these different aspects. And the painting is honestly a bad example because I think there's something I can learn there, but it's not as intimately connected as
Yeah.
these things are.
Mhm.
And I really do believe that every business person could benefit greatly from learning how to alter their resonance, from learning better diaphragmatic breathing,
Mm.
from learning how to be engaging and effective taking an improv class. And I think that the singers among us and the artists among us could learn a little bit about how a board meeting is run. I really do believe that these
Mm.
things are way more connected than people give them credit for. And it was honestly a challenge for me when I first became a speech coach. I thought the business person's not going to want to learn how to read this monologue from this play I took. They're not going to want to do
Mhm. Mhm.
Caesar with me. And I was surprised at how all of them went, not only is this really fun, this really helped me in my last presentation. It was a
Wow.
surprise for me when I first started this work. I
Mhm.
understood it intellectually, but I thought, are they really going to care? And so I would say the interconnectivity of these disciplines
Mhm.
sounds coming out of here are
Mhm.
all very related, whether it's in the artistic space, whether it's in the business space, or whether it's in just the everyday life space. That's why
Mhm.
everyone says to me, this is more than just speaking. It's life. All speaking is
Mm.
public speaking, and public speaking is life.
Right? I often say voice work or working on public speaking is like therapy and life coaching mixed into one. Bartenders, hairdressers, and and us. Like,
Yeah,
we get it all, and it's wonderful because it's a whole human instrument, so it
I
makes
really
perfect
agree.
sense.
I really agree.
Mhm.
Do I do the singing work? Do I do the public speaking work? Do I do the voice impression work? I do.
Mhm.
But I do see myself as someone who's using that as a tool to
Mhm.
enrich other people's lives.
Cool.
All of us in our professions are enriching lives. I just see the voice and speaking as the way that I do it. And I think our entire company and family of companies see it that way.
Mhm.
That's not an
Mhm.
original idea. That's how we all see this, is
Mhm.
just like the hairdresser
Mhm.
gives people a haircut that helps them feel good about
Yeah.
themselves.
Mhm.
And that's life enriching. And
Mhm.
also, I will add that public speaking is a form of suffering for many people.
Mhm.
And the ability to alleviate that suffering is another way to enrich a person's life. So, for
Mhm.
anyone who's facing anxiety in their life, you might want to consider that the way you're speaking could be contributing to that anxiety. And again, that's a
Mhm.
chicken or the egg. We all see it as no, Brendan, I'm speaking that way because I'm anxious. And I would say, maybe, but maybe also you're anxious because you're speaking that way.
Oh, it's so
And
good.
so, yeah, to connect it all together, these areas
Mhm.
link to each other. All
Mhm.
speaking, and public speaking is life.
Mhm. And I imagine I'm making an assumption, but I imagine vocal warm-ups are a thing that you introduce to everyone. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. We got a couple of minutes. Tell me about that. Do you get any backlash with that? Or people understanding of why they would want to warm up?
It's less backlash and
Uh-huh.
more of, okay, that sounds nice,
That's
right?
cute.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that where it's like, sure, that seems like a nice thing to work on, Brendan. But then
Mhm.
once they start doing it, they go, it makes me just feel like
Right?
and I go, yeah, the actions you do
Yeah.
affect the way you feel.
Mhm.
If you're speaking in a really tight way like this, you're gonna feel your heart rate go up. But if you're
Mhm.
able to open up, if you're able to use that breath, if you're able to drop the larynx a little bit, have some space, you
Mhm.
feel better. And so
You
warming up to get yourself in that place is a
Mhm.
great way to feel better.
Mm. Mm. What a good note to end on. It's
Mhm.
like you knew. If you wanna visit Brendan, everybody out there, presentingsolutions.com, you take one-on-one, you take group clients. It's fabulous, fabulous place. Thank you, thank you, thank you, as always, for coming on the show. I just
Of
appreciate
course.
you and the whole sisters of companies and just the
Yeah.
great work you're putting out there, and alleviating suffering is the thing I'm taking away here. That's
Mhm.
such a cool way to look at this and a real neat lens for the service that you provide, so
Yeah, and the
thank you
way
for
you
that.
speak is an effective tool to help you do that. But
Yep,
thank you for having me on. So good to be on here again. This was
thank you.
1 hour of the 6 hours for each of the topics we talked about. So I expect I'll be on 54 more times. So let
We'll
me know.
need some chapters.
But would love to join you again. And thank you to
Oh,
everybody for watching and listening.
thank you, Brendan. Have a wonderful rest of your day. What a great way to start the morning. Oh my goodness, I'm just loving that. And thank you if you are watching live and if you're watching later, not live, I don't blame you. It's a little bit early on the West Coast, but these conversations are so near and dear to my heart. They are, like Brendan said, alleviating suffering and offering some service out there and uh, connecting the dots. A lot of times we think voice work is separate for certain professionals, maybe actors, singers, sometimes speakers. Sometimes we connect the dots, but sometimes we don't. And so that's what I'm here for. And my lovely guests are for is let's connect those dots. Let's figure out this whole human instrument, all the information that we could possibly need to live out loud. That's basically it. So thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you and showing up here. And yeah, we'll be on soon, soonish. The schedule is on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel. I love, 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 love that. And until next time,